on, Vintage Gamers? Another off-stream league to show you today. I have been meaning to test this card, and I just haven't gotten around to it. Cyberdrive Awakener, recently featured on a 3BU video. I think it's a quite cool card. It's 6 mana, artifact creature, 4/4 flyer. When it ATBs, you get the pretty much very similar to the Antiquities War effect, where all your non-creature artifacts become 4/4s. And they can attack and murder your opponent. So I think like very reasonably castable at 5 and a blue with the power of Mishra's Workshop. And then it gives your artifact-based combo deck additional avenues to victory. Also a blue card, pitches to Force of Will. So the immediate place to place this card is in like a 8-cast or a combo / Jewel Shops shell. So that's what I've done. I have my Jewel Shops list here, which is pretty similar to the normal Jewel Shops list. It's probably very similar to the last time I played the Kappa Cannoneer list. But basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to replace Kappa Cannoneer with Cyberdrive Awakener. That actually makes kind of a lot of sense to me. Kappa Cannoneer you can't really abuse in Vintage as much as you can in Legacy, because in Legacy you have a bunch of artifacts that don't actually tap for mana to use to pay for the Cannoneer, but in Vintage, most of your artifacts already tap for mana. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play this PO Metamorph Coveted Jewel combo deck, one of the fastest decks in Vintage, very high power deck. The only thing that you'll really see that is super different in my version of Jewel Shops is I like to try to play these keys, Moonsilver Key, because you can sack it, and you could not only can you get a basic island, which will help you against Null Rods, but you can also get Coveted Jewel itself, because this has mana ability. So basically we're maximizing the ways we can find our Coveted Jewels and start doing the combo-oriented thingamajigs. Blue count, I have up the blue count with a Seagate Restoration, so I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, plus 10, 14, 18, 20. Super low blue count, but enough where you can just it will allow you to have some powerful hands that have force backup, which I think is something that this deck enjoys. So I'm pretty excited for this league. Jewel Shops historically is a extremely powerful but fragile combo deck in Vintage that I like to play every once in a while. So it should be fun. All right, so it begins round 1 of this Vintage league. We've got no action, but we have Force, Time Walk. I'm probably gonna keep it on the back of having Force and the ability to maybe go for another card. Because we're on the draw, we get a look to start on turn 1, and we get a look on turn 2 or 3 with this Time Walk, so I think it's okay. I think having access to Force of Will is a really powerful thing, especially when your opponent does something like this. And I definitely... I might actually pitch Time Walk here, which will give me access to Ancient Tomb, Black Lotus, and have Force of Will. That's kind of an interesting idea. I don't know. I don't have access to like a normal blue source, so I'd have to use my Lotus. That actually kind of makes a lot of sense to me. If my opponent doesn't have force backup for this, and even if they do have force backup for this... Oh, interesting. So maybe they are also on some kind of Jewel Shops variant. I don't have a Mentor in my build, but I don't hate the idea of having a Mentor. Saga is interesting. So playing Saga or Key would make it so I don't have Force Up, which I don't like. So I'm just going to go with Ancient Tomb, Black Lotus, go. This way, if my opponent follows it up with a Coveted Jewel, I can actually force it. I think it's important here. PO, maybe? Okay. It looks like it is a mirror, or pseudo mirror at least. So having forces was quite good here. Of course, I don't have very good follow-ups. If my opponent has, an additional... My opponent has an additional payoff spell, we are going to die. Not much I can do about that, though. Even having 2 forces is pretty sub-Jesus. Pretty uncommon. My opponent having 5 Moxen double PO is something that we would love to have in our deck as well. totally a thing that we could have. See what opponent goes with here. I mean, if they have, a follow-up, we are going to die. Oh, they didn't. Looks like they did not hit a follow-up, so we have time. We don't have a blue source, though, so all we have is constructs. However, we can get an ancestral, we can get a sapphire off of this saga, and then we will have ancestral mana. I would suspect my opponent has a force of will. I don't know what you are going to draw in your PO workshop deck that is not a land, not a Moxen, and you're holding up 5 mana. Like, they have to have their own force, I would think. Which is going to lead me to not casting my Ancestral on my turn. What I'm going to probably do is get my Sapphire, but cast the Ancestral on their turn, so they can have to use their mana. Interesting. A Cyberdrive Awakener is very interesting. Currently, we have 2 things to stand up. I think I would rather still just get a Sapphire. I don't have access to Black Lotus. I was looking at other things. Yeah, I'm just going to get this Sapphire. I'm going to attack for 5. And then I actually have a lethal Cyberdrive if I... No. It's going to be 15. Sorry, it'll be 12. Yeah, actually, turning just... Like, paying 6 and turning just the key in is going to be lethal. That's kind of cool. I'm going to definitely Ancestral on their upkeep here and see if they have Hardcast Force. I think they have Hardcast Force. Is my... Oh, wow, that's unfortunate. Okay, yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's something that could happen for sure. All right, so they have 10 mana. What do you got for me, opponent? Metamorph as a construct. That's quite good. It would be quite good if I didn't have unblockable. Okay, so I'm going to go... So if I go Mana Vault this way, then I get... Oh, they have a force. Okay. Okay, well, in that case, I don't have enough mana right now to make it unblockable, but I do have lethal attackers, so I will attack and make them trade, and all I need to do is hit an artifact next turn for lethal. Okay, so they did have force misstep blue. They had force misstep metamorph. So I made the correct read that my opponent had force of will. I wasn't able to get them to hard cast it on my ancestral, but it worked out okay. Artifact wins it. Did not draw an artifact. Well, my opponent can like very clearly still top deck Jewel or PO here and win, so it's not over. All right, well, I think my opponent drew a little dead there, and we were able to capitalize, which I like to see. So we're in a bit of a mirror match here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in Hull Breacher. I'm not convinced that Hercules is actually good. It has some utility, obviously, but I don't think we need an island in this matchup. I don't think we need a Moon Silver Key. Well, I don't think we actually need a Mental Misstep either. I think we're just going to take out Island Misstep and bring in some Hull Breachers. I could definitely see bringing in Hercules, but I don't usually like that plan. Like, technically, it can counter a PO sometimes. I guess I could pick up Saga. Maybe I want some Hercules. I don't know. I kind of want to just kill my opponent with the cards that I have. I'm going to go with no Hercules. I don't think it's unreasonable to bring in Hercules. I just don't know how good that actually is. So here I have my 1 black spell and no way to cast it. No blue mana either. So it's basically... I think this hand is just probably needs to be put back because I don't actually have a way to use this Metamorph effectively. This hand is a blue source away from a nice PO, and we have a key, so this is probably a keep. We will probably want to draw something like... Are they just... Do they just have it? What's going on? Oh, wow. Yeah, it's a good hand. Okay. Interesting to play the Time Vault. I guess they needed the Time Vault to make Metalcraft to get blue mana. That makes sense. So for me, there's a lot of things I want. If I go Saga, Emerald, Monolith, Key, Monolith, 4, Key, activate, Lotus, 4. So I think I can PO for 3 currently. Obviously, I don't want to get a Lotus with this key. Oh, they hit Tinker? That's interesting. Oh, unlucky. So my opponent wants to cast Tinker, but one of their floating mana is a artifact only mana from Workshop. So that basically means my opponent's probably not giving me another turn. Well, depends actually. Oh, wait a second. Is that lethal? Can I metamorph their Time Vault and play Key? No, I can't do both, right? So I can go Saga Emerald Monolith Metamorph. I can go Saga Emerald Monolith Key, activate Key, get a Lotus, so it doesn't actually help me. So I can't get a Time Vault combo here. I can't think of a way to get a Time Vault combo. It also makes it kind of dangerous to play my Manifold Key because my opponent could metamorph my key. That's something I have never really thought about. So maybe we should go back towards POing. So if we go Saga, Emerald, Monolith, Key, untap Monolith, 4 mana, Key, activate, Lotus, PO for 3. Yeah, I think that's probably the way to go here. Obviously, if they have Force plus Metamorph, then it's really bad, but I think it's okay. I'd like to be able to draw into like a Force of Will or something. I guess if this gets misstepped, huh? It's not the end of the world, but it's definitely not great for me. All right, so does my opponent have Tinker Key now, or do they still not have any normal mana? Let's find out. Oh, wow, yeah, it's a really nice Thought Monitor. So they have definitely a different build here than we do, which is cool. There's a lot of powerful artifacts and blue artifacts. Thought Monitor is a card that is quite good. All right, so they didn't hit a normal land, so they can't Tinker here. This is good for the home team. They can metamorph as a Thought Monitor. The good news for us is we can also metamorph as a Thought Monitor. I don't know if that's what we're going to do. Opponent could also become a key and then go get... Oh, no. So they can become a key and then go get Lotus and Tinker. I can't play spells or my opponent gets to use them. This is so brutal. Oh, man. We actually just lose the game. Wow. Damn. That mental misstep hitting my Manifold Key was game ending. I boarded out mental misstep, but maybe that's silly. Yeah, my opponent's hand was a wee bit stronger than ours. But I assume we lose this pretty badly here because my opponent gets access to Lotus. Don't really know what else we were supposed to do. I guess I could technically have not played Key, but that seems very awkward. I guess what I could have done is I could have gone Saga, Emerald, Monolith, go. And then on the next turn, I could have gone like Key Vault, maybe. That doesn't really feel... Oh, they got a Jewel. Interesting. So they probably didn't have Tinker. They probably had Thought Monitor, but not enough mana. Okay. So my opponent got a Jewel. I have to win on this turn. PO is not the draw we were looking for. But we can at least PO for 2, I guess. I don't really think I have counter other play here. I have just I have what I have. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. Oh, I forgot. I guess I could have copied Thought Monitor. Still think I would maybe rather Divination. I could like hitting any land or Mox in here lets me copy Thought Monitor. I hit neither. Okay. Okay. Yeah, maybe I mean I would have drawn the same cards if I had gone for Metamorph, where this lets me maybe draw more. All right, well, unfortunately our hand was just not good compared to our opponents, so we're gonna have to try again. I have to be super careful of what I leave in play, because of opposing metamorphs. Like I can't be just willy-nilly jamming Manifold Keys, Time Vaults, Moonsilver Keys in play, because if my opponent copies them, it's really bad for me. Also, like Coveted Jewel past the turn piles are probably not very good. Ooh, I think we should just have an opening hand that is, 4 mana, play Karn with Force backup. Or even Hull Breacher. Hull Breacher's quite good against my opponent's deck with Thought Monitors and Coveted Jewels and POs. It's very unlikely they boarded in Dismember, so like if I play a turn 1 Hull Breacher, it's probably lights out unless they get I mean they probably have access to Vault Key, but yeah, I think opponent's hand has been better than ours in both matches. We were able to sneak out game 1 after their PO drew them forces, and we had already we had a clock via Saga. Definitely one of the upsides of Saga is that you can make a lethal threat without having to beat force. So in this hand, I got what I wished for, right? I got, should be turn 1 Jewel plus Force backup. I didn't do the math. I might have miscounted, but I believe this should be turn 1 Jewel plus Force backup. Let's find out together, I guess. Oh no, is it 5 mana? Oh no. No. 3 mana, 2 mana, 5 mana. Okay, so I have to wait 1 turn. That's okay. I mean, I would still keep this hand. This is what, plus 2 mana? So yeah, so yep, okay. But I guess playing it makes it plus 0 mana. I would hope to not have to force anything my opponent does. That way our Jewel can get protected, but let's see what opponent's got for us. So they have a top in their deck. It might have been wrong to board out Misstep. I don't know. The things that Misstep hits are very powerful, but the number of things it hits are kind of small. Wow, Tolarian. Okay, that's... this is going to be PO for 4. I have to counter PO for 4. Not much I can do about that. Sure hope this works. Okay, did work. So I do need to actually have this Jewel hit good stuff and kill my opponent, because I don't want to give them access to Metamorph on my Jewel. However, Jewel is pretty good at killing. Let's see what we draw. Mishra's Workshop. All right, so I don't think there's any reason to use Mishra's Workshop. Well, yeah, I think it makes sense to use Mishra's Workshop. Excuse me, better other mana source. Oh, they had force? They just chose not to force the PO? Or maybe they drew force off of the top? Wow. All right. Well, I mean, I think we're going to lose then. If my opponent has another piece of action, I mean, they have a top to find it too. Wow. I do think my opponent was pretty greedy using their top to tap, tapping their top. In that situation, you have extra blue mana. What you can do is not tap your top, cast your PO. If your opponent forces, you can spin for a force. Something you have the ability to do. Oh my god, I'm getting PO'd again? What's going on? This kind of mirror match is definitely a slugfest. Haymakers thrown at each other, and whoever gets the first haymaker to resolve wins usually. Even more so than a normal PO deck. In like a traditional PO deck, you have a lot of utility and tools, and you can play on end step with Flusterstorms and things like that. When it comes to Jewel shops, you're just slamming jewels and hoping it works. Because most of the time it is going to work. There's only, 4 forces in each player's deck. It's fairly unlikely you have a game like game 1 where the first 2 plays get countered from the same player. Like this one, like having each player counter the first haymaker from each side is not unreasonably uncommon, but right. Yeah. Okay. Mentor is not the end of the world, but Mentor is definitely something. Like I need to do top deck answers now in the next 2 turns or so. That is not one of them. Like if I hit a jewel here, then I probably win anyways. But now it's looking less likely. Like I said, I would never mulligan the hand I had. I had a jewel, a turn 2 jewel with force backup. That's what you want. I mean, you'd either like it to have like a turn 1 jewel, but wow, what did they draw? Oh, they drew a jewel? Yeah, I mean, that's the power of top. All right, well, I do believe that means we're going to die. I can't imagine that this goes well for us from here. Again, I just think that in all 3 games, we just had the less powerful hand. There wasn't major sequencing choices we could have done differently, right? I don't think there was. In game 1, we could have not played the... game 2, we could have not played the key, which I think is a reasonable thing to think about. That could have been like one of the key mistakes. It was definitely it could definitely be considered a mistake. However, like I had used the mana from the Grim Monolith already to play the key, or to play the Manifold key. So it's like pretty hard to say that I can't use my Monolith anymore. So I would have had to not play my key at all, which wasn't really the line. I think you just lose some of them. That's how it goes. Okay, try again. What do we got? Nice hand. Keep. Not a turn 1 jewel, but I'm gonna probably go... Probably gonna go... I'm probably gonna go Island Mana Vault. And the reason is this prevents the most bad things from happening. Wasteland, Force of Vigor, that kind of thing. I guess technically no matter what, as long as I don't lead on Workshop, then I would have the ability to play Jewel on the next turn. However, if I play Saga, it incentivizes my opponent to Vigor, in which case I have to Force, and then it's not as good. Whereas this case, like, I can maybe go a Workshop without having them Vigored. All right, but it's probably moot because my opponent is playing a Tolarian Academy Gataxian Probe. All right, are we gonna... Jesus. I don't feel like we are sufficiently high rolling enough to be... Oh, man. Yeah, you have a cool 7 mana. What would you like to do with it? I'm going Island Mana Vault, and my opponent is going to Layered Academy, Lotus Crypt Jet, Probe, play something. Tinker? Are they hard casting a force? Oh no, okay. All right. Well, they knew about my force the whole time because they probed me. Yeah, I mean, I'm jamming. Like, what are they gonna do? I mean, maybe they have a Hull Breacher. No, they have nothing. Interesting. Well, I consider this winning because, well, it's probably winning. Karn is quite good at these mirrors, or not. Maybe this is probably not a mirror, but in the artifact, the combo artifact deck mirror, pseudo mirror, anyways. Karn is basically the nastiest haymaker. I'm gonna bring in Hull Breacher. I'm sure they're good here. I'm gonna take out Island again, and I'm gonna take out. I'm not gonna go Misstep this time because it's possible my opponent is on just like a Grixis Tinker deck. I'm gonna try to just probably take out Key. It's probably like the most cuttable card is why I want to take it out all the time. It's also a card that is, you know, kind of just testing. The idea is Coveted Jewel is the best card in the deck, and I want some to have more redundancy. It's basically the whole idea, but it could be bad. I did enjoy Key a lot inside of KCI. Like playing like Key and Coveted Jewel in your KCI deck gives you, like, Key can find a lot of good things in the KCI deck. In comparison to this deck where it finds Lotus and Sapphire and Jewel, but in the KCI deck it can find KCI, it can find Star, it can find all kinds of things. Once again, I am unable to turn 1 a Jewel, but I mean, if I hit a Moxen, it's a turn 1 Jewel, so I think you just always keep it. Obviously I have no counter magic in this hand, so if my opponent goes turn 1 Tinker again, I will die. It does happen though. Let's see. It's awkward because you want to use the power of the London Mulligan to have powerful hands, but you're also a deck that really relies on having a large quantity of fast mana, because you're a PO deck and you're also a Jewel deck. So you don't really want to mulligan too much. Moxen? Karn. All right, I mean, I'm down for that too. That's kind of big game as well. So we're gonna use my Ancient Tomb because it's gonna actually allow me to play Karn because it's not artifact only mana. So I play a Karn, it resolves, that's great. Kill your Opal, pass. Karn is restricted for a very good reason, and this is kind of why. My opponent is unhappy that I have resolved the Karn again, which is fair. I don't blame them. Karn is really lame and makes it very, very much a one-sided beating. My opponent, because they played a Saga on turn 1, now, unless they have an Ancient Tomb, have no way to activate their Saga because they can't play 2 lands in 1 turn, and any of their artifacts will be turned off. My opponent is talking about Four Seasons tournament in Bologna. Oh, it was another Coveted Jewel Mirror. This one has Seat of the Sign odds. Yeah, Karn is very broken in those. I was just saying, my opponent's talking about Bologna Four Seasons, first weekend of June. If you are in travel range of Italy, I highly recommend going. I unfortunately will not be able to make it for this one, but I definitely recommend their tournament series. Legacy, Modern, Vintage, just got it all. So definitely go check them out. Okay, here we go. Third round of this league. Maybe we'll play another mirror match. Let's find out. This hand, again, doesn't do much, but it has force, which lends me... The way these leagues have been going, it makes me feel like I really want to have a force in all my openers. Oh, bizarre. All right, something different this time. This is not a very good hand against Bizarre, as I don't actually have action. But what's a guide to do, I guess? I can only... Ooh, pitched Force of Vigor, Wasteland. That's a good sign. So there's like no recursion, so there's no squeeze. There's no Master of Deaths. There's no Dredgers. And there's no Vengevines. And they pitched 2 Vigors, and our deck is incredibly weak to Force of Vigor. So just a lot of winning in my book. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to get the Saga in play, and I'm going to play a Key. And if I get 3rd Force of Vigor, then so be it. But I don't want to deploy... I don't think I want to deploy anything else. Though, maybe that's not a very good choice, because holding these kind of cards makes me liable to Mindbreak Trap. But I was thinking maybe we just play Ancient Tomb and make 2 Saga tokens and hope it's good enough. But my opponent pitching Wasteland Vigor probably makes a lot of sense in their opening hand. However, against my hand, Wasteland Vigor would be unbelievably good. Just punishing us for having an Urza Saga would be... well, par for the course. So it does look like my opponent is on Squee. They've got both kinds of wallas. Cute little guy. Oh, they had a strip mine anyways. Okay, all right. No, ooh, Memnite. That's not a card I have seen in a while in these lists, but it's definitely a card that has seen play as additional way to trigger Vengevines. Rest in peace, Urza Saga. You tried your hardest, and it just wasn't good enough. So my opponent currently has a small army. I currently do not have any army. But I am going to at least have a lot of mana. That is something I will have. I don't believe it makes any sense currently to... All right, so I'm going to let you in on something. If I had tapped the Ancient Tomb for the Grim Monolith, then it might have made sense to play Metamorph on a Rootwalla because I could pump it with Opal. But I think we can wait one turn here. But if things get really desperate against this army of 1/1s, we can definitely make our own Basking Rootwalla and pump it with our Opal, which is not something I have ever done in my life. So I'm excited. Oh, uh-oh. They hit a Master of Death and a Vengevine, so that's a pretty good activation. If they have a hollow one, they get to bring back Vengevine. Oh, interesting. So if I'm pitching Vengevine, I'm probably trying to hold this Basking Blazing Rootwalla so I can return my Vengevine, but maybe that's not the case. All right, so I am looking for Time Vault. Mental Misstep, not exactly the one I was looking for. I'm gonna go with Metamorph, paying 2 life, and copying this Basking Rootwalla. That will give me the ability to pay no life and pump. And then if I don't need to pay any mana, I can always untap my Monolith with my key. I am definitely looking very far behind in this match, but that can change on a good top deck. Draw a Time Vault, draw a PO, draw a Coveted Jewel. All of those things will kill my opponent. Haven't been drawing those very much, but the Karns last round were very spicy, so. All right, my opponent has pitched another Vengevine, along with a Wasteland and a Master, and they are playing a hollow one. I'm going to let that resolve. All right, so this is what I'm saying. If you had kept this Rootwalla last turn, and now you drew a hollow one, you would have been able to return your Vengevines. Probably an underutilized skill inside of Squee and the two Vengevine decks is that there are times where you don't want to cast your Rootwallas and your hollow ones right away. Like, there's a lot of times where you have a hollow one and you have like 2 Vengevines in your yard and you just don't cast your hollow one, even though you want your hollow one in play as soon as possible to beat down, but you also have to factor in how much you want to return your Vengevines. Again, I have a force backup. Can I have action? Metamorph again. Okay, well, I am going to play a Metamorph. I think this time I'm going to actually use the blue mana. I guess I will pay some amount of mana to pump if I need to. I guess I could always... Yeah, I could just pay 2 life if I need to, and if I don't need to, then I can untap. It's probably better than investing 2 life in and not having to use it, right? So I probably should have done this casting cost last time. Though I don't really think I'm going to need to pump, to be honest, because I have a hollow one to block, so it's unlikely they're going to attack with all of their 1/1s. Again, if my opponent hits double creature, Vengevines are going to be a huge issue. However, it's kind of unlikely because my opponent has continually cast their creatures on when they've drawn them. So I think they've saved me a lot in that sense that my opponent has probably lost value for their Vengevines. However, they have double Bizarre, double Master of Death, so I am slowly losing this game. I definitely think my opponent has Force of Will blue card or Force of Negation blue card in their hand, the way they have tapped this game. The way they have tapped their Bizarre and the times and sequences they've tapped it. It makes sense to me that they have Force blue card or Force green card. But I have that covered. Oh, I forgot to untap my Grim Monolith. Well, that's unfortunate. Immediately came back and bit me a little bit. So I'm going to lose out on some mana here. Quite unfortunate. If they Vigor right now, I actually can just sack Lotus and PO and not have to use my Force, which is kind of interesting as well. So maybe it's a nice bait. Yeah, I was supposed to do this at end step, and then I wouldn't have even had to do this, but it's okay. All right, I'm going to PO back the Root Wallow as well. I think this should just be a very lethal PO, so I have no problem with picking up this Metamorph. All right, yep, they had Force Blue card. They also had Mindbreak Trap, but I have Force Backup. Time to draw 6 and see if that gets me to the Promised Land. Survey says... no. The survey says no. I have found no draw spells of any kind. No jewels, no POs, no Moonsilver keys, no nothing. Okay, so now we need to deploy a new Basking Root Walla. And I have Force, but my opponent has 2 Master of Deaths, 2 Bazaars, and 2 Vengevines. I have a sneaking suspicion this could hurt us in many ways. All right, so what I'm gonna do is tap my Monolith, play my key, and then play a Phyrexian Metamorph on your Basking Root Walla. Go. All right, so POing for 6. Not actually good if the 6 cards you draw don't win you the game. Ooh, unfortunate hit here on another Root Walla for my opponent. They are running out of creatures for these Vengevines quite rapidly, but they have 2 Master of Deaths here, so they have some game. They're gonna go up to 3 cards, then they go to 5 to 3 to go to 3 to 5 to 2 to 4 to 1. So they can easily find 1 Root Walla, 1 Hollow One is all they really need to do. All right, they found another Vengevine, so that's 3 Vengevines now. They could, they do not activate again, so maybe they have either a Hollow One in there. Oh my, we're getting in there. All right, so what I'm gonna do is I'm going to block one of their Root Wallas and pump my thing. Maybe I'm supposed to use the key on something, whatever. All right, I'm at 10. And they pass. The good news is I can probably hardcast this Force at this point, so I can still beat a counterspell that they drew, because they kept 1 Master of Death in hand. Ooh. Okay. So... Okay, so... I just go Workshop, Sapphire, and cast a Cyberdrive Awakener. This is currently lethal. I'm not 100% sure it will be lethal if I have to use my Force, though. Yeah, it should be, because I can... Okay, so they did draw Force. So what I can do is just tap this and Force. And then I kill my opponent with... Wow. That's cool. Sorry. I got prepared to snip it. Oh, and they all fly. I don't know. Don't know if I read that line. I'm not gonna lie to you right now, chat. I don't know if I read the fact that not only do these creatures become, not only do all my things become 4/4s, but they also fly. Wow, that was pretty sweet. Very, very cool. Very, very cool. Very cool. Very cool. Very cool. Very cool. Very cool. All right, so my opponent is playing the Bazaar deck, the Squee deck. We will bring in Hull Breachers. They're actually quite good in this matchup. We will bring in Trinisphere, which I find to be very good in this matchup. I will also bring in Soul Guide, Needle, Cage, and Crypt. Cage, not so good, because it only stops Vine, but I think it's still worthwhile. Obviously, the Karn is no good at this point. Mental Misstep is no good. Probably... I have no idea what we're going to cut in this matchup. The forces were actually really good, but I typically don't find forces to be super good. But maybe I have to. Like, how can I even cut enough cards? Maybe you cut Tinker because they have too many counter spells. That's not unreasonable. Maybe we can cut Island if they're a Wasteland deck, but it's probably still okay. And then we can cut we can probably cut some POs. Those are a little bit more... Man, our blue count will be very low. I kind of think I'm just supposed to cut forces because our blue count's going to be so low anyways. I'm kind of off the idea of having force in this matchup, so I could go like force, misstep, and a key. Not force, misstep, and an island, and then I'm not cutting any engine pieces. I'm just cutting the forces that... It's really hard to have the mana or the... Like, I had the mana that game to play blue, and I had a blue card at one point, but like, there are so few blue cards left in my deck. I guess technically I took out 1 or 2 and brought in 2, but I don't know. I feel like just having a bunch of action makes more sense to me. This hand is very awkward as it doesn't have all the things that I really need, but it's just 1 Moxen short at all points, so it's not too bad. I'm not sure this is like... It's not the greatest hand in the matchup, but it's definitely a powerful hand. Opponent put a Vengevine, a Gaia's Cradle, played a hollow one, and contains... Oh, okay, shit. All right, well, my opponent has 2 cards, so they have 12 free power on turn 1, and maybe even force backup. The good news is I'm not immediately dead, and I'm not playing Citadel, so my life total doesn't matter too much. That's a great draw. That's a very good draw. I'm going to play all of my stuff and not give a remote flying any word about a Mindbreak Trap or a Vigor. I am just going to play PO because I think PO is the best against a counter spell, but the worst against Vigor, whereas Tinker is the best. Well, I guess Tinker's not even that good against Vigor either. I think just seeing if it resolves with PO first makes sense, and then yeah, okay, that's fine. I don't think I want to play around Mindbreak Trap because I don't have very many turns. I got to use my mana well. Like if I draw on their turn with like if I play around Mindbreak Trap and I PO on their turn, right? Sure, I have maybe I resolve my PO, but I still have to beat a Mindbreak Trap on my next turn. Wow, they have a Wasteland. All right, that is the real bad. That's the worst thing that could probably have happened. Because now I don't have access to Tinker. I was expecting to just Tinker for Vault Key this turn and should be able to win. Because it's really hard for them to win through that. But now I need to draw a mana. I drew a PO and I lose. Wow. Okay. Unfortunate. Very unfortunate. Because my Mystical Trap I can't cast Tinker. Unfortunate. I don't hate the line I took. Like there's a million draws there that win me the game. Just didn't work out. I think that was fine. Like, again, I think keeping that hand was fine, and I think the way we played it was fine. This hand has Needle Cage. Ah, crap. So, like, technically, this is a good hand because it has turn 1 Needle against the Bazaar deck, but it doesn't really have a great follow-up. It's extremely weak to Counterspell. It's extremely weak to Vigor. It doesn't actually do anything. Yeah, I'm going to probably just mulligan this hand. Whereas this hand is better than that. Yeah, this hand is definitely better. I'm just going to... I'm going to just get rid of the Hull Breacher because I can't cast it. And I'm going to go for Soul Ring. I was about to say go for Soul Ring Mana Vault Trinisphere, but that runs into Mindbreak Trap. But it's probably still worth it because I need to be able to play spells. Well, technically I could play this Metamorph through a Trinisphere, but Magic Online is bugged, so that doesn't actually work that way. Pretty sure I'm still... Man, if I get Vigored in response to this Trinisphere, it's quite poor for me. I think I have to, though. I think I just have to. I think I have to get this Soul Ring down first, so I can continue playing Magic after. Maybe I'm actually supposed to go Metamorph on the Soul Ring. Oh, I could have done that. I could have Metamorphed on... I mean, that's like really bad into Vigor as well. All right, they had a Mindbreak Trap. This Mindbreak Traps have been pretty brutal. I don't really know if it makes any sense to even play around them, though, so... All right, the good news is... Well, there's no good news. My Saga is, again, being wastelanded. Okay, so if I draw a mana source, I can Metamorph as a vault and then go for a jewel. Or if I draw a key, maybe I can untap. What's your hand look like? They have bizarre negation root walla. Oh man, yeah. Playing against Squee as a non-wasteland deck is it's an ordeal. Let's put it that way. So my opponent is going to play Bizarre, activate, put a root walla at the least into play, and then still have access to negation misstep. I wonder if they didn't misstep the Soul Ring or the Mana Vault. Or if they drew misstep as their first card for turn. All right, see, again, like, I don't know what the third card they kept is, but if it's not a blue card, I would have probably tried to keep root walla so I could bring this Vengevine back. That's not a bad draw. Unfortunately, tapping it doesn't really get me anywhere, so just gonna hold back. All right, so another one. See, like, this is what I'm saying, though. If my opponent could have brought back Vengevine, right? But I guess it doesn't matter. I'm just gonna lose anyways. My opponent hit double Squee effects, so now they're just going to have card advantage. So even if I draw mana here, they counter my first jewel, and then they counter every spell for the rest of the game. And I just don't have counterplay. I have to try, I believe. They could maybe not negate it because they think they're going to steal it with Root Walla. I guess that's a theoretical thing they could choose to do. A lot of the times, if they do that, it backfires pretty poorly. So I don't usually recommend letting a covered jewel resolve at any point. All right, so the good news is I've gotten the first force out of my opponent's hand. The bad news is now they just get to get back Squeeze using their Bizarre, drawing 3 cards every turn, and I don't even have the mana to play another jewel. Excuse me. So I feel lost and confused and sad, and which is, I guess, all the feelings I normally have when I play a combo deck against Squee. It hurts. It hurts. It absolutely hurts. It do be like that. All right, my opponent has 3 Squeeze now and a Strip Mine, so I lose another Saga. The good news... There is no good news. I don't think there is any good news. I don't think I have good news. I don't know if there's a single card that would get me out of that. I guess my best draw is Tolarian Academy. I don't even know if that's good enough now because my opponent's been drawing 3. They'll have drawn 6 cards since the last time I cast, and they'll just be able to find another force for my jewel or bring back Vengevine or anything. It doesn't look good for the home team here. My opponent currently has 8 cards in hand while activating this Bizarre. They had 1 card in hand when they countered the jewel. Basically, if you can't stop Bizarre of Baghdad from activating every turn, it's very hard to beat this deck. And I understand that I chose to not keep a needle on the play hand I just don't think that that hand had enough. Like, it only had Needle, basically. Like, if Force of Vigor didn't exist, then maybe it's fine because you can go like Needle, Cage. You can go Cage, try to get it countered, Needle, and then copy Needle with Metamorph, and you might actually be okay. But because Force of Vigor exists, I just can't ever make that play. Force of Vigor makes it extremely hard to play multiple pieces of Graveyard Hate against these decks. It's just really, really challenging to try to get that to work. Because you have to have like either 3 pieces of Graveyard Hate, or you have to hold one and then they get a free turn of activating while you're tapped out, or you can't play it because they're not instant speed. It's really, it ends up being quite frustrating. There is also no good news here, as I mean, I have stopped the Vengevines, but that doesn't really matter because they have 2 turns on these Root Wallas to kill me, and they have 9 cards in hand after when they activate this Bazaar, so there's like no chance of my Jewel resolving. To be fair, I don't think I've had the strongest hands, but I really was hoping to snag game 2, to be honest. All we needed to do was draw a mana producing, a non-workshop mana producing thing, and then we would have been able to tinker for a Vault Key. Yeah, I mean, my opponent's not even activating Bazaar. All right, cool, I died. All right, try again. I haven't seen Kevin in a while. This is cool. See what they got for us today. Ooh, looks like a companion. I love when people play against me and they're like, "Oh, I'm testing things. Don't." No hate, please. You're allowed to test things. What do you think I'm doing? This hand unfortunately has no blue source. I'm gonna throw it back. This hand unfortunately has no anything, but my opponent's on a Gigantha. I think there's some Metamorph value. I'm just gonna keep this hand and put back this, I guess. Maybe that's silly. Maybe I'm just mulligan again. Gigantha means no force of will, so I'm like kind of at liberty to mulligan on the play to something good, but I feel like having a force of will and the ability to copy whatever they have feels like a pretty reasonable thing. Okay, we've been paid off. However, we don't have, I think what I'll do is I will metamorph the I'm gonna metamorph the I don't know, the ruby, because it looks cooler. And that way I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 mana. I just need to draw a mana source to play Jewel. They didn't have a Wasteland, which is really good for me. And I currently have access to Force off of Ruby, which is good for me. All right, so I'm just looking for a nice land key. All right. So key costs 2 and only makes 1, so that doesn't actually help us. If we get Wastelanded, I don't believe we can win this game. I think we're pretty far behind as it is. The Golos style deck having double Workshop Sphere is very scary, especially with them having 5 cards in hand still. All right, here's the Wasteland. So I don't think we have very much shot here. Maybe we could draw Time Vault. Maybe I'm just not mulliganing hard enough for this deck. It's definitely a possibility. I feel like I haven't even hit matchups where I would consider us to be like extremely unfavored. Like, we're not playing against Collector Roof, Force of Vigor matchup. We've just played against, 2 mirrors, which are, they're mirrors. And then we played against Squee, which is probably, Squee is probably a very bad matchup. Well, what am I kidding? Squee is probably not a very good matchup, but I just feel like our hands have been so much worse than our opponents, but maybe that's just because I'm keeping bad hands. You have to definitely factor that in, right? A Moon Silver Key. Okay. Unfortunately, I can't double activate my Moonsilver key with my Manifold key. That would be pretty cool, though. The good news is we could always get a basic, or we could get a Lotus. We have, some play here. Unfortunately, everything costs 1,000,000 mana because my opponent has drawn 3 sphere effects. What the? Oh no, Slasher! What have you done, Slasher? It's gonna murder me. This is Slasher's new favorite card. Bronze Guardian, commander card. Double striking, warding monstrosity. I'm going to die to that. I am most certainly going to die to that. Okay, so I can sack my Moonsilver key, and I can go get a Black Lotus. And then my Black Lotus costs 2. So this is not even good. I'm just off it. We're dead. Very dead here. All right, cool. I probably should mulligan, especially knowing my opponent has no Force of Wills on the play. I should mulligan harder. I get to bring in Hercules Recall, though, so that's always nice. I get to take out Mental Misstep and Probe and a key, maybe. Seems reasonable. My opponent casting the Bronze Guardian off of the Mox Pearl was expert level gaming, I must admit. I too hope to become that powerful of a wizard someday. Oh boy. All right, let's try again. I do think that some of this league's mistakes and mishaps can be attributed to me mulliganing poorly. I'm gonna have to go back and look at the tape after and take a look, because it might not be true. Maybe all of my hands have been reasonable keeps, but maybe reasonable keep is not what we're looking for. Which is weird because I'm typically someone who over mulligans in most situations because of London. This hand's great. This is the kind of hand I want to keep. Turn 1 PO for 3. All right, maybe I can finally show off the power of the Jewel Shop stack. Maybe we finally are actually doing it. Yeah. So maybe this is the problem. I should be mulliganing to this hand every game. I do need to fit an extra mana source here, or I am fizzled. That technically works. Whee! Nice shop stack. Okay, that was fun. I would do that again at any point, at any time. Anyone ever wants to do that, we can do that. Oh boy. I'm gonna draw my whole deck because it sounds like a jolly good time. Whee! I'm doing the fun things. I'm doing all of the fun things. All right, I guess I'll win. I guess I'll win. All right, I will let you. You are taking no turns. I appreciate that. All right, so yeah, it only took round 4, but I have finally showed you the power of the coveted jewel. That's magic sometimes. It does make me feel like the hands I've been keeping are not not acceptable. No bueno. Oh, that's no good. Okay, try again. Like, am I supposed to mulligan this? I would think not. I have a bunch of mana. I have a force. I have a PO. Like, what are they gonna do? They actually don't have Gigantha anymore. I don't. That probably means Mindbreak Trap. See, like, I think that's supposed to resolve. Maybe that's insanity. But like, we're not, you know, forcing anything through here. So I think it just makes sense to start, you know, establishing my mana base. Obviously, if I have to force something, it's a little awkward that I have to use my mana vault. But I think that's also acceptable. Second Ancient Tomb is a welcome sight because I don't want to get wastelanded, but it's also not a welcome sight because it's gonna hurt my okay, yeah. 2 spheres. So we probably will need a Hercules Recall to win this game. Maybe that's a harder thing to achieve in this deck than it is in PO. So maybe it's not really a good idea. That costs a lot of mana to play. This also costs a lot of mana to play. The good news is Mishra's Workshop means I don't have to take as much damage. The bad news is I still have to tap one of these to force. And I guess the bad news is my PO is not looking to spike. Ooh, Saga is annoying. Saga plus 2 spheres is annoying. Yeah, I'm going to probably have to draw Hercules here. I guess I could just draw Jewel, maybe. I guess they have to have another mana source as well. Interesting. I have only an artifact or a creature, so I can't actually copy a Saga. That would be pretty cool, though. All right, so now I have... All right, so if I were to cast PO, I could do such a thing. Would it be good, though? Would it be good, though? I kind of think it'd be fine. I don't want to go through my turn. All right. I have very little life total, so I probably am going to die to Construct because I played this probably too greedy, but it felt like getting the draw 3 was a reasonable avenue here. I guess my opponent could just not have oh no, they have a land. Okay. So they are making a 4/4 2 4/4 constructs, maybe 5/5s. Yeah, I will probably die. I can't actually metamorph a construct because they can make it at end step. So I actually have to probably win this turn, which means I probably have to draw Hercules Recall. Actually, even Hercules Recall doesn't do it. All right, well, it's Jewel time. Now a Hercules Recall might do it. Yeah, I think we just need Hercules Recall. Didn't find Hercules Recall, so... Metamorph costs a lot. I think even if I metamorph here, I don't even have enough mana to do it. All right, I guess I still need to do it though. Like I can just go Ancient Tomb, metamorph. Should have used the jet mana. Need to hit Hercules off of this, and then I need, yeah, I guess Hercules off of this still does it. So I've drawn like 10 cards since I said I needed Hercules. Did I draw Hercules? No, didn't draw Hercules. So that does it. None of this gives me plus mana. If I draw Hercules here, it costs 4 mana. I cast Hercules, and then I can go Sapphire, Vault, Opal, another Jewel. Yeah. I think any Hercules in those 10 or 12 cards that we drew would have done it, but didn't get there. Maybe I'm the one at fault for not forcing the initial sphere. It just didn't feel necessary at the time, and maybe that's my like inner PO player speaking, where I have 4 Hercles and 3 or 4 ways to find Hercles. That's probably the case, right? Hmm. Okay. I could have changed this game a lot if I had countered Sphere. I just don't know if I think countering Sphere at the time made enough sense. But it was definitely a choice I could have made. All right, well, our last chance here with Jewel Shops. We're up against Surge, who's been playing all kinds of combo decks, DPS, PO, DPS, and PO, Jewel Shops. Here I have another pretty weak Jewel Shops hand that features a Force, and I very much want to keep it just because I know Force is always good against Surge. But it's just such a bad hand otherwise that I don't think I'm allowed to keep it. Like, if this was a piece of fast mana, I would probably keep. That way, I have a plan. I force their thing, I go Mystic Forge, but I don't have a plan, so no plan, mulligan. This one lets me play turn 1 Ancestral, so in we go. I'm gonna get rid of the Saga, I think. Just get, get rid of Second Key. Yeah, so basically I can go Tomb, Crypt, or even I can go Saga, Crypt, Key, get a blue, play an Ancestral. I think I want to do Saga, Crypt, get a Sapphire so that I can play a Jewel after the Ancestral gets countered. Saga. Probably should lead on Crypt here, but that's fine. Key. Key would have also worked in this situation as Prophetic Prism, and probably would have been better with Cyberdriver, but hard to say if it's in general would have been better to play Prisms. I'm not a huge fan of Prophetic Prism in Vintage in general, so don't know. I've been liking the idea of Moonsilver Key getting Jewel when you're in top deck mode, but it hasn't come up as much as I had hoped it would. But we also haven't been playing. We haven't played against the control decks that are like countering all your spells and removing your stuff, so it's a little hard to say, right? It's definitely not for these kind of combo mirror matchups. Key is definitely more geared towards the the rug and bug and just skies and those kind of decks. All right, so the bad news, my opponent resolved Ancestral Recall. The good news is we got rid of a Force of Will. All right, so it looks like we're back on maybe a PO deck, maybe a Tinker deck. The good news is another good news is we have 2 Haymakers in a row. I do think that playing a Jewel is better than activating a Saga here. We'll have to reevaluate next upkeep if we want to make a construct, and we probably can make a construct and play a Saga, so it's gonna be fine. But I would definitely like to resolve Jewel if I can. The good news is it can't be flustered, so they have to find one of their remaining 3 Force of Wills, or maybe a negation if they're playing a Esper Tinker deck, maybe. So there's not that many spells left that counter this Jewel, and it resolves. And ooh, a very nice hit. It's a little risky for me to play the Soul Ring because my opponent could have mental misstep. So I think I'm just going to start with another Metamorph, or a Metamorph as another Jewel. And then interesting, we could Tinker for another Jewel, or we could play the Soul Ring. I think now, yeah, I think I'm going to Tinker for another Jewel. I'm going to get rid of my Mana Crypt. I'm going to Tinker for another Jewel. All right, cool. So now I have Jet, Soul Ring, and PO. I guess, again, I probably shouldn't have played Soul Ring. I should have just played Jet and PO'd. And then I'm going to pick up everything. Cool. This looks like another crazy combo win. That is the power of this deck. When you resolve one jewel, it's likely you will resolve multiple jewels. So in this matchup, I'm just going to bring in these hold reachers, and I'm going to take out Island Key, and we're going to resubmit. Okay. This was kind of a sad league, but it will come back. This hand seems fine. I got plays. A little bit of counter magic, a little bit of PO, a little bit of Tinker. This is good, clean 5-minute magic here. It's just murder your opponent. Uh-oh, no. Ooh, I thought this was going to be turn 1 Lavinia off of Island Pearl, and I would have been very sad. They did find Force of Will off of their Merchant Scroll, which seems like a reasonable play, considering how things have gone. I'm going to definitely Time Walk here. It's going to set us up to have a bunch more mana. I also am baiting a force on this by not showing them Black Lotus. If they force this, I can then go Black Lotus Tinker. I'm not going to do that yet because my opponent did not take the bait. And I want to hold this Black Lotus for PO. So like if I draw a Mox in here, then I can play Black Lotus, PO for 3. They counter it, and then I Tinker them. Can I cast this? 2 mana, 4 mana, 7 mana. Technically can cast it. I think what I want to start by doing is just POing for 2, though. Seems like a good bait. Yep, all right, got the force bait, and now I Tinker. And then I'm going to get a Coveted Jewel, because I think that's the best thing I can Tinker for in my deck. And then I brick here, because I only have 5 mana, right? So that is the end of the line. Okay. Okay, all right. That's okay. It's unfortunate, like, this deck doesn't really play Citadel very well, so I think it's okay not to have Citadel in your deck, but... All right, what is this? They have their own Tinker. All right, well, can you kill me? Time to find out. Any land is a brick here, and so are counter spells. Though counter spells will be annoying for us to deal with. All right, so they did brick off here. Okay, I think that's definitely a very easy start, is to just tap my colorless mana and play a Metamorph. I can actually Metamorph as a Citadel. Should I do that? Should I play a Citadel? I already have drawn Awakener, 1 Jewel, 1 Seagate. It's probably worse than a Jewel. I'm gonna be honest. I think a Jewel should be better, just having extra mana. I think the Jewel is better. All right, so this should be very lethal. Ah, Flusterstorm. Okay. I can just pay. I can definitely just pay. Okay, I'm gonna go get a manifold key. I'm gonna play my key. I shouldn't have tapped my Tolarian Academy. There was no reason to do that. Okay, cool. A 2/3, a fast, quick league. I think the thing I'm most concerned about was not really the deck itself, but mostly my mulliganing heuristics for the deck. It's possible that I was keeping hands that were just maybe not strong enough. Other things to think about are Moonsilver Key really good enough? They could just be Grim Monoliths, in which case you have, faster jewels, but you have less likely to have blue mana for your blue spells. I think the idea of having something in this slot that makes blue mana is pretty powerful, and the idea of being able to get a basic island against Collector Roofs decks makes a lot of sense to me. Having the access to basic island plus workshop is a way you can cast Cyberdrive Awakener against a Collector Roof and win the game. So I think there's like definitely some value to these keys, but they were a little clunky here. I don't really know if Prism would have been better in at least one instance, but I don't think it would have been better in all instances. There were definitely instances where like key just transferring into Black Lotuses or Sapphires was good. Karn obviously busted in the mirror. All in all, I think Jewel Shops, my verdict on Jewel Shops is it is a totally playable deck that is one of the most powerful and fastest combo decks in the format. However, it is extremely vulnerable. It will blow over with a swift 1 Force of Will sometimes, 1 Collector Roof, 1 Vigor. So there's a lot of outcomes where, get it, where you are faced with interaction and you fold. However, that's like not enough to make it not playable, right? This is like a very Belcher style. You have a really powerful ability to turn 1 kill a reasonable amount of the time. So cool. It's a cool deck. I don't think a deck I'll play too much more. The Cyberdrive Awakener didn't get to show as much in this league because we didn't really play against the controlling decks where I think this is at its best. Like if you can like cast this after your opponent is like, counter all your stuff and they kill them with it, I think that's a great example of where this card would be useful. I guess even the matchup against Hollowfine where we did play it, it did exactly the job that you wanted it to do, where they countered your stuff and then boom, awaken all my Moxen, kill you with them, which was pretty sweet. I'm really happy we got to do that at least once. So hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure you look out for more videos on my channel. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, a video every one of those days for as long as I can keep doing it. I'll see you then.